stronger bands of rain in the eastern end of Hillsborough County. Haven't seen some of those stronger gusts of wind that the coastal areas have seen. However, just because you're not getting strong winds doesn't mean it's safe to be outside. And we're going to show you why. There have been a series of tornadoes across the region. In fact, we have some video of several of them. So far, we've seen tornadoes in Polk County, Fort Myers, Clewiston, Palm Beach County along the Florida Turnpike, and near the Everglades. This comes after Polk Sheriff Grady Judd told us tornadoes were among his biggest concerns with this storm. These were produced by some of the earlier bands from Hurricane Milton. We're told several homes were damaged by one of them. In all likelihood, there have been other tornadoes as well. Experts say there are some that can be shielded by rain, making them almost impossible to see. And this is why emergency managers don't want people out anymore. It's just so hard to tell where these tornadoes are going to pop up. And as we've seen, most of them have been inland, not along the coast where the stronger gusts of wind have been. In Brandon, Aaron Mesmer, Fox 13 News.
All right, Aaron, thanks much. We're going to take a short break here, but we're going to come right back with more continuous coverage of Hurricane Milton.
Yeah, stay with us. We want to take you out live now to Englewood Beach here. You're looking at a live earth cam here, and you can see those waves are really crashing in on the shore. That's what it looks like in Englewood, but we're getting some videos in from along the West Shore area where the bay is getting sucked out. I've seen some of that from folks, and I'm also getting messages from people who live in Naples who are saying the surge is bad and it's getting into some homes.
It's all about where you are in relation to the center of the storm. And that's the thing that I remember I harped on 1,000 times the past couple of days. I hate that storm surge map because it's so broad brushed. It's all about where the center is. So you're right now in Tampa Bay, water's going out because the wind's blowing northeast. It wants to come in, but the wind's so strong, it kind of pushes it out. Now, that could change later tonight with a shift in the wind, but right now it does not look like a repeat in spots Tampa Bay north, like we saw during Helene. Now, different story there, Englewood, different story in Siesta Key. And Anna Maria, unfortunately, I think is going to have another tough time at Holmes Beach.
I'm fascinated by the camera behind this, the Naples Beach camera, the pier you showed us earlier. For the most part, these waters and these winds have almost been coming due for south.
Well, yeah, because that's where
it's straight up the beach.
You know which way the wind is blowing. If you put an X on a map and you know where the center of the hurricane is, the winds go around in a circle, so you can almost know which direction they should be from the south, because that's where it is in relation to the center of the storm.
Paul, you guys had said earlier that you are not looking at the models anymore because it's on satellite and you're following where it's going to land. Because I think people are so focused in still on landfall, because as we know, as we saw with Helene, it could make a change up to the last minute.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much I mean, and the thing is, it's not a little point that where the eye is. It's kind of like just a big circle of wind. So if it's off a little bit, it still ends up kind of hitting the same people because it's so close.
Right.
And we're going to watch it. And we remember last night, I said, remember we did the Irma coverage at night, and it was the middle of the night, and the weather was over Polk County. And we'll kind of do that again tonight, I think. And the storm is going to weaken, but there'll be 40, 50, 60, 70 mile an hour wind gusts. And at night, that's disconcerting, not fun.
And as that other video showed, that other Earth camera shot showed from Sarasota as well, they're getting the impacts right now on the beach.
Yeah. Right.
There's very heavy winds already right now, and there's already some surge.
And there's probably a lot of flooding. And they can get it from the other side, too. You can get it from the intercoastal side.
Right.
For a while, then the wind shifted to the other side. So, and can we show the, Nash, the camera where we look down in Sarasota? That's that's Englewood, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably not at the peak storm, but you know there's flooding going on there just by looking at that camera.
Right.
That's a problem. And then we have the other camera. You guys can take what? Yeah.
There you go.
So that is looking down. So before that, or I should say closer to you at home, would be the Sarasota Yacht Club, and then behind it is Bird Key, and then beyond that is downtown Sarasota.
That's probably Marina Jack's right down below, right?
It's the
right off the yacht club. Yeah.
Yep.
So the good news is the boats are still there, but this is not done yet.
No, we got a ways to go. And also, let's plop up. Can we show the radar?
What'd you say?
I don't know what I said. I said, can we plop up? It just made me laugh.
Oh, I heard pop up. I think it sounded fine.
We know what you meant.
Yeah, we
Long
know
day.
what you meant, yeah.
Losing it. The rain is a problem, and really concerned. Wherever the storm slides across the state, everything north of that line is going to end up with maybe 1 to 2 feet of rain. And we know we've learned so much this hurricane season from Debbie and Helene that with 1 to 2 feet of rain, there's going to be river flooding. There's going to be flash flooding. Thankfully, I mean, the only good news is everybody's home.
Right.
So you're not dealing with people driving around. Also, the big rain event comes out of nowhere. At least this has been predicted, so people are in this safe place. But river flooding is a problem too. So this is going to be tough.
You think about how many storms we've already had, how saturated our grounds are.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's only going to exacerbate the power outages.
Clarify landfall again for us, because landfall would be when the center of the eye crashes. Right. But so once that happens, we will have already had some of the worst winds on shore, correct?
Yes. And the worst weather obviously is not in the middle of the eye.
It's right on the outside?
It's in the front of it. Yeah.
Okay.
There was discussion, so we were back. Nash, have they followed up on that at all? Anything else on the chat?
Because I've seen nothing about that.
Yeah,
no.
So a couple of hours ago, it's extremely rare that the Weather Service here in Ruskin, any local office, would issue an extreme wind warning, because it makes your phone go off, and it's done in rare cases because they want to save it for a situation where they're screaming at you, this is going to be dangerous. Right. There's discussion that they may issue one, and it's for sustained winds of 115 miles an hour, and it'll be for a small area. We'll see if they issue one, but for now they haven't. And that would be down towards Sarasota and Anna Maria and Longboat. That zone is where that could be issued.
So if we're expecting landfall, the middle of the eye to go,
is that it?
Boy, that would be it. If that's it.
That's it. That's it. Extreme wind warning.
That's it.
Oh,
so if we're expecting the eye to come on shore somewhere from Anna Maria to a little bit further south, around 8 o'clock, what would that mean for the worst winds about an hour beforehand?
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I need to know where this warning's for. This is actually important. This is important information, so I didn't mean to interrupt you. Because I'm telling you, this is rarely issued. So, Nash, is there a graphic available, Nash?
Working on it.
Here's what to do. If you could just draw it on the radar, it's here it is. It's for Manatee County, and I guess they're going to do it by county. It doesn't delineate where it is. So there's an extreme wind warning for Manatee County, Pinellas County, in Hillsborough County until 9:30. This is an extremely dangerous and life-threatening situation. So the bottom line is in sections of Manatee, Pinellas, and Hillsborough County, as Milton begins to move onshore, this is going to bring with it an area of sustained winds of 115 miles an hour. And that's the kind of wind. Is that, you drawing it by hand?
Yeah, that was me drawing it in.
Yeah, and they usually just kind of get it down to what the area they think it is, but they just went by the county. All that really means to me, and all you can do at home is sit tight, and maybe if you're watching me right now in those counties, is put yourself in a spot in the house that's away from windows. Sure. If you have, because that's what this is the kind of wind of 115 miles an hour that could take some of that debris left over from Helene and blow it around. Sure. So the only advice I have for you is, if you're where this eye is going to make landfall, is get yourself away from the wind. There's nothing else you can do. We don't have basements in Florida. I can't say go to the basement. No. All I can tell you to do is just stay away from the windows until this passes. Now, it's going to get dark pretty soon, and the whole situation of having winds that strong at night is even a more disconcerting situation.
Are we done with the tornadoes, Paul?
I think so.
Okay.
I wouldn't be shocked to see maybe a couple more, but I think the energy that produced, the shear that produced that, has now kind of raced away from our state.
So that wind warning again is until 9:30 tonight.
Thank you for reminding me. It's up until 9:30, and I'm going to chat. I want to chat.
I think Nash wants you.
Yeah, just drew the rough polygon. This is the area that they're looking at. Did they make it a polygon? Yes, should be in our system here shortly. The population enclosed in this pole is close to 3 million.
Yeah. So, and I need to make this clear. Okay, this is important. It is not, and I said earlier, this is not going to be for entire counties, and it's not. It's for Manatee County, Pinellas, and Hillsborough, but just portions of those counties. And I don't think it goes all the way up to like Palm Harbor. Does it come up to Tampa?
It does, yes.
It includes Tampa? Okay.
Palm Harbor, it includes as well. That's the cutoff point. It stops before Tarpon Springs. It's drawn before or after Sarasota, so just north of Sarasota to just south of Tarpon Springs.
So give us a minute. And Jim just walked in, and we'll get back to the graphics machine, because I think it's important that we visually show you what we're talking about. We know the general area, and we'll come back and we'll show that on a graphic of who's got this extremely rare extreme wind warning that I don't remember the last time I've seen it.
But before you go, Paul, does this mean that these winds are going to continue for that long, or could those be gusts? I know you said sustained.
It's sustained winds of 115. It means you'll experience. It doesn't mean you have 3 hours of sustained winds of 115.
Okay.
It means there will be a spell of sustained winds of 115, and then as the storm goes east of us, the winds will start diminishing. But those winds are going to start moving inland. Maybe not at this level, but those winds will start heading inland.
And the key will be where on that cone or where around the eye wall we're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's usually the leading edge of the eye wall will have the strongest winds. Okay. So let me get to working on a graphic. Okay. And then I'll come back and probably just cut in with that graphic.
Come back whenever you want.
Okay.
We'll be here waiting.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
You know, we're just talking about those tropical storm force winds and how they are already moving through Polk County this evening. You know, there are already reports of flooded streets, and there were numerous tornado warnings there this afternoon. Our Fox 13's Carla Byron is in Polk County now with the latest.
Officials say now is the time to hunker down, as we're going to start experiencing the strongest part of this storm later tonight. Those hurricane force winds that are going to reach 70 to 90 miles per hour. There were numerous tornado warnings this afternoon, although county officials say no confirmed touchdowns so far. There was damage in Highlands County from those cells. The county does have reports of downed power lines, and the significant rain has caused flash flood warnings. There are some roads that are impassable right now.
Our shelters are still open. We've got about 5,500 people across all of our shelters that are open. Those are still available, but again, unless you really have a good reason to leave at this point, it's best we suggest you just hunker down, ride out the storm, wait until it's safe tomorrow to begin moving around the county.
As those strong winds come through and there are power outages, officials are just reminding folks, don't put your generator in a garage, put it somewhere where it's ventilated. Also, don't try to connect it to your house without an electrician. Talking safety after the storm, officials are stressing people don't let your kids play in flood water as there could be debris or animals or other hidden dangers. Driving through flood water, especially at nighttime, is a terrible idea as well. Another really important thing to remember is that injuries and fatalities are more likely to happen not during the storm, but after the storm. When it's light outside and people go outside to check the damage, they may step on a downed power line. So officials again are stressing that people stay inside once this storm passes. In Lakeland, Carla Byron, Fox 13 News.
All right, Carla, thank you. The city of Tampa is preparing to see a lot of flooding, damage, and of course, power outages. Our Evan Axelbank has been speaking to city emergency leaders about what they are expecting. Evan, what are you hearing there?
Yeah, and we have gone from waiting to see what the storm would bring to now being in the middle of it. Obviously, it's dry in here, but there are dozens of city officials behind me who are keeping a close watch on everything to do with the city, from police to fire, transportation, every kind of, every city department is represented here in the Emergency Operations Center that I am in right now. And I'm joined by Mayor Jane Castor. Mayor Castor is here with us. Now that we have seen some of the projections of storm surge decrease, changed, are you able to say that the city of Tampa has avoided the worst yet?
I would say that we have avoided the worst. The worst case scenario would have been for Milton to come in on the north side of Tampa Bay. It's certainly not good, but I don't know about catastrophic. As it looks, it continues to move, so nothing's certain, but so far it looks good.
What guidelines are you going to use to determine when to either end emergency services or to restart them?
We usually end, as a rule of thumb, at 40 miles an hour. But, our first responders are going to go out and do what they have to do. But we certainly can't put people in harm's way. And so there does become a point when the winds are steady or those gusts are so high that first responders just can't get out.
And do you believe you're there yet?
I don't believe we're there yet. We still have police and fire responding to 911 calls.
And have you, at this point, responded to any what are called critical incidents, any incidents of injuries or serious injuries or deaths?
Nothing associated with Hurricane Milton.
Well, that's certainly good news. For people who are watching right now, obviously the mayor and other officials around the state and in the county have insisted that people leave evacuation zones A and B. Let's face it, there are going to be people who did not leave those zones. What do you say to those people right now as they watch and determine whether they're in an unsafe situation?
Well, they are in an unsafe situation, and right now they just have to do all that they can to shelter in place right now. It's too late to get out.
And just quickly, what resources are going to be standing by for when this storm passes through, and how will you deploy those resources?
And that's a great question, because we are prepared to respond. But what we need to alert everyone to is that as you evacuated, thank you for doing that, but as soon as the winds die down, you can't come back into the city immediately. We're going to have to check those areas that have been flooded to ensure everyone's safe and it's safe to get back in there. I promise you, we will get you back in as quickly as we safely can. So please just stay posted and wait for the official word to go back into those evacuation areas.
All right, Mayor Jane Castor, thank you so much for being with us. So, Allie, you hear the good news, and that is that it seems that Tampa has avoided the worst, the absolute worst, but of course, no one's guard is down right now. We have to wait and see what this storm brings to the city of Tampa.
I feel like I can take a little sigh of relief there. Please thank the mayor for all the updates and the work that she's done for our community. Evan, thank you.
Yeah, first the mayor, now the sheriff. Law enforcement has all hands on deck right now, waiting for Milton's landfall. Let's bring in Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Chronister joining us live. Hi there, Sheriff. What have you seen out there on the streets? This is something likely most of us have never seen, at least a scenario like this. How is it right now?
In my 33 years of law enforcement, I've never seen the flooding that we saw 2 weeks ago, and what we're starting to see already with the heavy rains, the flash flooding we're starting to see. But the conditions are rapidly, and I mean rapidly, deteriorating out there.
Sheriff, what's your sense of the evacuation orders in terms of how well they were responded to? We know over the last month or so, we've had a couple of storms here in the Tampa Bay area, so we've had plenty of dry runs. People know how damaging and dangerous these storms can be. Do you think most people who needed to evacuate have?
I have to tell you, I believe they have. You saw the long lines at gas stations, at grocery stores, places where they could buy supplies, the amount of cars that had fled, the fact that I've never seen every hotel in Hillsborough County sold out, even from residents who just got out of the evacuation zone. I'm very pleased with the response. Well, I just got an update before we came on air. We have over 15,000 people in shelters. 6 of them are at capacity. That's great news. That means people are heeding the warning.
That's an incredible number for our shelters. What about those who did not evacuate, who may need help later tonight? What is your message to them?
That's my biggest fear. You know, they took that gamble. They gamble with their life or the life of their loved ones. I'm not going to gamble with the 4,000 members that are here at the sheriff's office, along with Fish and Game, who sent 30 officers here ready for that response. We're all prepared. We have people spending the night around the clock. They're ready to go do what they're trained and prepared to do. But I'm not going to gamble with their lives responding because you decided to stay. And I can't imagine what that feeling would be like if you said, oh boy, I shouldn't be here, I need help, and help's not going to come at some point.
Sheriff, is there an area in terms of location that may be also a big concern for you? Obviously, there's some coastal areas, especially down by the river, but we know, you mentioned, of course, the heavy rain that's already starting to happen. Do you have a particular area that you're really concerned about, or are you more concerned just about the whole county?
Yeah, 2 areas, the south end of the county where I think is going to get the brunt of the storm, Alafai River. Again, you guys know how heavily saturated, what a busy rainy season that it's been. And now with all this rain coming, there's nowhere for the water to go. And I'm afraid of the flash flooding. You know, the storm surge is still yet to be determined. So the south end of the county and Dana Shores out towards Town and Country that easily floods. These are the 2 areas of the county that I'm most concerned with.
Sure. Well, Sheriff Chronister, we thank you so much for your time. Anything else you want to add to our viewers as we get ready for what could be a historic night here in Tampa Bay?
Hey, as your sheriff, as a father, as a member of this community, wherever you are, I'm pleading with you, stay indoors.
Let's hope they do. Sheriff Chad Chronister, thank you so much. We appreciate all our first responders and all you guys do for us, guys and gals. We know it's going to be a busy couple of days, if not longer. We'll let you get back to work. Thanks much.
Thank you.
Well, President Biden did address the Hurricane Milton issue, of course, this evening, and the destructive power of the storm, while assuring that the government will be there, he said, for the people of Florida. Here it is.
We've already approved emergency declarations for Florida. We have thousands of federal personnel on the ground. We've staged and are ready to go. We have 20 million meals, 40 million liters of water. At my direction, the Secretary of Defense, Austin, has pre-positioned search and rescue teams, helicopters, and high water speed vehicles as close to the storm as possible, so they're ready to conduct life-saving missions.
So you have been listening.
All right, let's talk, as of course, President Biden here giving some brief moments, some mentions here a short time ago. We want to talk about Pasco County. Go ahead. Yeah.
We're here right now in Port Richey in Pasco County. We're right along the water. This is a neighborhood that we've been in for a little while today, and it is pretty much a ghost town, which is good news ultimately. That means a lot of people appeared who have evacuated, either getting out of this area completely or going to a shelter. And right now the wind is really starting to pick up in this area. We've seen some pretty steady rain for the last couple hours in Pasco. We've been in the Hudson area, the Port Richey area. If you take a look at this house right here, it has the hurricane shutters on, and again, it doesn't appear that anybody is in this neighborhood or in this general area right now. Now this house, the neighbor actually tells me the homeowner stayed during Hurricane Helene and actually had to swim out to the house next door that was on higher ground. So that just gives you an idea of how high that water was that came in during Helene. Now neighbors in this area are bracing for potential potentially round 2 of some potential storm surge flooding and flash flooding that could come with Milton and impact parts of Pasco County. And if you look at this house right now, this house was destroyed by flooding from Hurricane Helene. The homeowner says he had at least 4 feet of water inside his house. His house is gutted right now. And by the looks of the debris that was scattered along the street in this neighborhood, so many other people were dealing with the same thing from the flooding from Hurricane Helene. As you can see behind me, these homes back right up to the water, and that has been a concern again with Helene and with Milton here about that water rising. One of the biggest concerns in the county along the coast is the potential for more storm surge flooding and flash flooding. Again, it's already been raining for the better part of the afternoon, at least, better part of the day really here in the area. So that is one of the concerns. Again, storm surge flooding and flash flooding. At this point, if you haven't evacuated, that window has closed, and emergency officials are asking people really to shelter in place at this point. We will continue to have updates throughout the evening, but reporting in Pasco, Kylie Jones.
I want to talk about this graphic. We were discussing it earlier. Extreme wind warning is up until 9:30. This is done in extreme wind in extreme cases. Doesn't happen very often, and since I've been here 35 years, I don't recall one. Maybe when some of the hurricanes moved across the state, but I think back then this wasn't used much. All it means is in purple, which really covers essentially almost all of Manatee County, almost all of Hillsborough, almost all of Pinellas County. Winds may be sustained at 115 miles an hour. That's sustained, not gusts. Doesn't mean for 3 hours you can have a sustained winds of 115, that there may be a spell of that amount of wind as the eye wall begins to traverse the state from west to east or west-southwest to east-northeast. The highest likelihood, I think, of that occurring maybe a little bit to the south of some of these, the top end, maybe a little bit down here and down here. That is where the eye wall contains, we talked about this last night, the day before that, the core of the hurricane, the donut. The eye is the hole of the donut, and then surrounding that hole is the wind, the worst that the hurricane can produce or offer. That is going to slide east-northeast and head to the east coast. So this is up until 9:30. You should have had alert on your phone. I think it's actually required. This is one of those alerts, like a storm surge warning, that is required to be sent to your phone. This is until 9:30. Can we show current winds to see if we're probably not near that threshold? But let's see, you got 66 now in St. Pete. The eye wall is still kind of hanging off the coastline, but the winds will pick up as it begins to move onshore. So what is the advice? So you say, Paul, what do I do? There's not really a lot you can do in basements. I mean, if I was home and one was issued from my location, the best course of action is to put yourself in a room that you think is the safest room in your house, whether it's a bathroom or maybe I'm not saying it doesn't have to be a closet. It could be a den. It could be someplace in your house that you feel you've got a lot of walls in between you and the outside and away from windows. Your biggest concern is really that wind blowing something around that would hit your window and compromising your house. That's really the biggest concern in these extreme wind warnings. I don't think there'll be enough wind necessarily to blow your roof off or something like that, but certainly can cause damage to your house. But anywhere interior of your home away from windows is the best course of action. So we'll have an update again and a lot more coming up. Here's the radar showing the heavy torrential rains which continue Tampa Bay north. Back to you guys.
All righty, Paul, thanks. You know, Disney World closed their theme parks early today ahead of this hurricane, ahead of Milton making landfall. And the cost of the closings, they say, could be anywhere from $150 to $200 million. That's according to analysts at Goldman Sachs. They say that will be the cost of closing Disney's Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and Disney Springs. Disney says these parks will likely stay closed through Thursday. And it's always, I want to show you this, always amazing to see this. Look at that. That's the International Space Station capturing some video of Hurricane Milton as it churned toward the Gulf Coast of Florida earlier today. And you can see it's clearly a monstrous storm, and it really has taken shape. And there are always incredible images from afar. I think a lot of us would love to be on that International Space Station right now.
Right, yeah. Well, you know, this morning, FHP troopers rescued a dog that was left tied to a pole by someone. Look at this video. This dog was found on the shoulder of Interstate 75 near Bruce B. Downs Boulevard. And as FHP troopers approached the dog, you can see here it barked because it was scared. But troopers reassured it that they were there to help. And then you can see in the video, the dog was already submerged in floodwater up to its chest. Now, we shouldn't have to say this, but of course, FHP urges people, do not do this. You can take your dog to a shelter, or many of the shelters are accepting dogs. They're pet friendly.
Sure.
But the dog has been rescued, as you can see in the back of the trooper's car, and we actually heard that it was checked out by a vet, doing okay. Well, here's the dog in the back of the cruiser, and yep, as we just said, all checked out and doing well.
You can find more storm coverage as well right in the palm of your hand. If you have not downloaded the Fox Local app, please do it now, because it really is a great app. It's so easy to use. You can actually scrub back on the live newscast and watch it. You'll really need this for sure if you have any power outages, because many people are expecting it. Many people are already experiencing that. I know I'm getting some alerts in Pinellas County already. But the app has county-by-county updates, forecast videos from our weather team, all of our live newscasts. It's free to download for iPhone and Android phones, so please take advantage of that and don't wait till your power's out. Go ahead and do that now. And obviously, keep your phone charged as long as you can.
And those alerts on. Those are so important. And a reminder, if you do lose power during the storm or you need to save your device's batteries, several local radio stations will be carrying our newscasts, and you can listen to our hurricane coverage on 102.5 The Bone, 97X, and 101.5 The Vibe. Stay informed, of course, at fox13news.com, and you can always find the latest track for Milton and weather updates there. Well, we are staying with you on the air throughout the night as we continue to monitor Hurricane Milton.
Yeah, this is a tough one, affecting a lot of people, but we're here for you. We want to help. We want to do everything we can. So we're going to be right back with our Chief Meteorologist, Paul Delegato, and the very latest track. We're about an hour away from expected landfall, county-by-county coverage, and live Sky Tower radar moments away.
And good evening. Thanks for sticking with us as we continue to stick with you throughout the duration of Hurricane Milton. I'm Allie Corey.
And I'm Mark Wilson. The entire Fox 13 team is here for you, ready for you. We appreciate you joining us. Hurricane Milton getting ever so close now to the Tampa Bay area. And we want to show you a little bit of damage we're already starting to see. These are pictures from Lake Placid from that tornado. It was a pretty dark wedge tornado there earlier tonight. These are from the sheriff. Tropical Home Mobile Park in Lake Placid. This is why we can tell you got to be careful of these mobile home parks during these storms. We're hearing one person did suffer some minor injuries, but again, that's why we have our mobile home parks and manufactured homes in these evacuation orders, even this far inland, because we can see these tornadoes spawn. And if you saw our tornado alerts and the tornado warnings today, it was really something. I'm not sure I've ever seen 5. We had at least 5 at one point this afternoon in our viewing area at the same time. Just really incredible. Viewers are also sending us some video as well. Here's a clip of a tree that fell on a power line. This is Bardmore area in Seminole, Pinellas County. They're starting to get some of those heavier winds, and yeah, that power line is hot. Could spark a little bit of a fire there, but that's what happens when we get these heavy winds and these trees that are kind of somewhat canopy trees. If we got soft ground because of all the rain, some of the trees that are pretty thick, these winds are going to pull some of them down.
Sure, and at this point, you should absolutely be in your safe place. Let's send it over to meteorologist Nash Rhodes now with the very latest. Nash?
Yeah, we're checking in right now with a live update from Hurricane Milton. Sustained winds at the moment, 120 miles per hour. Still moving to the northeast at 15 miles per hour, which is relatively quick. We've seen it bounce back and forth a little bit faster than that at times, a little bit slower, and that's what we come to expect. As disorganized as this storm now is, a lot of those showers and thunderstorms kind of off on the northeast side of it, off to the southeast. Drier air is now funneling in, and that's why the southern edge of the eye wall, we'll show here in just a moment, has started to erode, and it's mainly the northern half that we're seeing all of the heavy rainfall, and additionally seeing all of the strongest winds at the moment. Here's the latest updated track. We kind of tagged the position of the eye hour by hour, and you can see a few small jogs and wobbles here and there, and that's why we say we throw the models out the window right now and we keep an eye on the storm. We babysit it until it comes on shore, and that is so important because depending on the exact spot of landfall, as we're already starting to see, all the onshore winds will be just south of this circulation. All the offshore winds will be moving away from the coastline, and those offshore winds will mitigate that storm surge, while the highest levels of surge will be just to the south of the circulation. Let's get a closer look at a few spots that are already seeing some of the heaviest bands of rain. And kind of deceiving here because the radar, remember, is punching through all these outer bands. By the time it gets here, it's a little bit lighter shaded, but still starting to see that eye get closer and closer to the shoreline, likely now moving toward Manatee and Sarasota counties, where that extreme wind warning was issued just moments ago, as winds could climb up to 110 to 115 miles per hour for some time. We're watching all this rain on the north side of this as well, as we've already seen roughly half a foot of rainfall on the leading edge of this storm, and the eye right now across is about 20 to 25 miles. We'd expect that to grow just a bit. And you can see very disorganized and disheveled right now. Not a lot happening closer to the center in terms of organization like we had about an hour ago. Right now, wind gusts along the coast as high as 60 to 70 miles per hour in many spots. Notice the offshore winds just north of that circulation. Areas down farther south in southwest Florida, as we checked in with the Naples Fishing Pier just a moment ago. Onshore winds down there. Otherwise, inland, starting to see those wind gusts tick up to 30 to 40 miles per hour. And remember, these are tropical storm force winds extending very far inland. We didn't necessarily see hurricane force winds get transported inland with Helene when it made its close pass. This is going to be a different story because the eye, again, coming on shore and expected to make it all the way to the east side of the state still as a hurricane before pushing off the shoreline. This is a very rare warning that was issued just a moment ago. An extreme wind warning until 9:30 p.m. encompassing Tampa, St. Pete, all the way down south, just north of Sarasota is where they've drawn that closing line. But you get the picture. Spots in here can expect wind gusts and wind speeds to exceed at times 110 miles per hour, perhaps 115 miles per hour with that warning. And they saved those warnings for the most dire of scenarios when it comes to these very strong winds on the leading edge of powerful hurricanes. Storms that come to mind, Ian. I was covering this storm, Hurricane Ian down in southwest Florida as it was pushing on shore, and one of those warnings were issued and came to our phone. Not very many of them are issued each year. Sometimes we go an entire year without seeing one of those warnings issued. So it just puts in perspective what we're seeing there. Additionally, the winds on the north side of this moving offshore will drive that surge much lower. Onshore winds, especially the strongest near and south of the storm center, is what we're going to be watching for to bump up those storm surge totals perhaps at or surpassing 10 feet in some spots. That has been the trend with many of these surge forecasts, but notice the numbers farther south have started to increase in spots while the numbers up to the north have started to come down substantially. We have made some changes with that forecast. We're going to get that to you in just a moment, but Sky Tower radar showing that this is now nearing the coastline, 25 miles wide or so for that eye wall right now. Get back to you in just a moment with new updates regarding this storm's position. Guys?
Are we thinking landfall within the hour?
Might be a little
Hour and a
soon.
half?
I remember it's
Okay.
the center of the storm. Exactly.